Good morning. I'm LB, your Director of Music and Worship Arts. I use the pronouns he, him, and his, and today we begin with Love Will Guide Us by Sally Rogers. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Greater Lansing. My name is Katusha Galitzine, and I am so pleased to be in worship with you today. You are welcome here this morning, whoever you are, wherever you come from, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey. We at UU Lansing affirm that Black Lives Matter. We recognize that our building is on the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, the Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi peoples, land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We gather not because someone says we should, but because of our sense of community. We gather not in spite of our differences, but to celebrate them. We come from various socioeconomic backgrounds and sexual orientations. We have different abilities and different racial, ethnic, and gender identities. We are all ages, and we find we're infinitely more fabulous when we can bring all of who we are to this church. That is what makes our time sacred and what makes our ground holy. Today, we gather to celebrate and to mourn our changes and the changes in the world. They say you cannot stand in the same river twice because the water is changing and changes what it touches. I have a strong summertime memory of a stream that ran behind my summer camp. There was a rock in the middle of the stream that formed a nearly perfect seat. And I would sit on this rock and let my solid back break the stream. And I would watch the water reform and spin off down ahead of me. Sitting there, I felt calm and solid, separate from the rushing of the water and the rushing of life. Let this be a time for that stillness, or for one similar to it. This is a time of rest, where we can hold each other gently in between the demands of our days. And it's a time for announcements. There will be a congregational information meeting here in the sanctuary at noon today. It will include an update on the activities related to the homeless encampment. If you cannot attend, please take a look at the newsletter. It is a major effort, and we will need volunteers and donations of products and funds to support the residents moving from the encampment. Also, stop by the membership table in the atrium for information on the congregational directory and for more information on these and other church activities. Read your weekly email newsletter or check out the website at uulansing.org. And of course, please join for coffee and conversation in the social hall and atrium following the service. Now, I would like us to take a moment to welcome one another. First, let's start with those who are joining us on the live stream or the YouTube. And then let's take a moment to greet each other here in the sanctuary.
unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp. Be lamps unto yourselves. Be your own confidence. Hold to the truth within yourselves as to the only lamp.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome Hari Kern up to the chancel to light the chalice for us this morning. We kindle this symbol of our community of faith for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. Thank you, Hari.
Good morning. I'm Renee Swanson, and my pronouns are she and her. Our story for all ages today is the butterfly and the cocoon. One day, a person was walking through the woods when they noticed something hanging from the branch of a small tree. It was a chrysalis, a butterfly's cocoon. Looking closely, they saw a tiny opening. Inside, a butterfly was struggling to squeeze its way out. The person sat down to watch. Minute after minute, the butterfly pushed and twisted. It'd make a little progress, then stop to rest before trying again. The struggle seemed endless. After an agonizing long time, the butterfly appeared to be stuck. They weren't moving anymore. The person felt compassion. Poor little butterfly, they thought. They're trying so hard and they just can't get out. Wanting to help, the person took a small pair of scissors from their pocket and carefully snipped open the chrysalis. Immediately, the butterfly slipped out with no effort. The person smiled, pleased that they were able to help. But something wasn't right. The butterfly's body was swollen, and its wings were small, crumpled, and weak. The person waited for the wings to unfold. They waited and waited, but the butterfly never flew. You see, the struggle to emerge from the chrysalis has an important purpose. As the butterfly pushes through the tiny opening, fluid from its body is forced into its wings. That very difficult work is exactly what strengthens the wings so they can carry the butterfly into the sky. Without the struggle, the butterfly could never fly. Some kinds of growth cannot be given. They must be discovered through perseverance, courage, and experience. The challenges we face don't always make sense while we're in the middle of them, yet they can teach us patience, compassion, resilience, and strength that we never knew we had. Like the butterfly, we are changed by the journey, and sometimes what feels like the hardest part of the journey is quietly preparing us to spread our wings. May we have the wisdom to help when help is needed, the patience to let others grow when growth is needed, and the courage to trust that change, though often difficult, can help us become who we are meant to be. I love this story. It means a lot to me. I can think of so many examples from my own life that ring true, as I know all of you can.
And as the students and their advisors go to the next activity, we'll sing. You shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills will break forth before you. There'll be shouts of joy, and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. And all the trees of the field will clap their hands. The trees of the field will clap their hands.
My name is Sonya Schryer Norris, and my pronouns are she and her. I want to talk with you this morning about process and trust and what our shared UU value of transformation asks of us as we prepare to welcome Roger Burchhausen as our interim minister. As you may know about me, I'm an early bird. I'm on my front porch most mornings before dawn. I'm not there just to see the sun crest the horizon. I'm there for the process of it. It starts in the dark, and I can't rush the light. I can't control what I'll get. Cloud cover, muted grays, brilliant color. Same porch, same time. And me trusting the process, even though I can't control the outcome. And here's what I've learned. The darkness matters. That gradual shift from black to blue-gray to that morning's offering of color. It's in the slow emergence that transformation lives, just like with the butterfly. You can't skip steps in a sunrise. You can't demand results. You have to be present at each incremental shift to experience the full majesty. Sunrise is a long process. This year, our congregation has been through significant change. Loss, uncertainty, and big challenges. We've now called an interim minister whose practice is built on understanding that process matters as much as outcomes. Roger Burchhausen says this, that transitional ministries need a collaborative approach, a focus on mission, attentiveness to good process, and reflection on how a congregation can best put its values and mission into concrete action during and beyond the transition. He's here to help us be present to our own process as we welcome him at the same time we're looking ahead to the search for a new settled minister. And that process aligns with one of our 6 shared UU values, transformation. The UUA names it this way: we adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Those words matter especially for us right now. The willingness to grow spiritually and ethically together as a collective. It's about trusting that the process itself is sacred work. Allowing ourselves to be changed by the journey as individuals and as a congregation is spiritual transformation. I don't know what this next season holds for us any more than I know what color the sky will turn tomorrow morning. But I'll be on that porch again, and I'll be here in this process with all of you, trusting that what we're building together, one incremental shift at a time. Thank you.
In this congregation, we engage in our Touchstones ritual because we all carry joys, sorrows, hopes, and fears into every room that we enter. One of the ways that we can serve each other is to give one another permission to set them aside. In just a moment, you'll be invited to come up the aisles and take a gem or 2 or 5 to represent the things that you are carrying. And you can set them aside in the columns of water on the sides. Sometimes when I do this, I tell my worries I'll be back after church, or thank you for waiting while I worship, or I'll tell my joys, don't go, I'll need you later. The things we carry want to be noticed, and often when we do that for them, they ride lighter on our shoulders. If you would like to share your joy or sorrow with the congregation, you can write it in the book, and you can also request there that a pastoral assistant contact you about it. Please join us now in this ritual. And now LB will drop for us stones representing any unaddressed joys and sorrows in this space, and also those held by those watching from home.
Hi, I'm Chris Cleveland, and today's movement meditation will be Tai Chi. When you do Tai Chi, I want you to think of yourself as part of nature, because many things in Tai Chi are related to how nature moves. And so think of yourself as a tree, that you're deeply rooted and solid to the ground, and yet you stretch up tall and strong toward the sky, but your leaves and branches can move gently. So think of that as you're doing this. Try to breathe deeply, keep your joints soft and relaxed to move that life energy, the chi, in your body. You may stand or sit or just watch.
We give of our time, talents, and wealth to support UU Lansing. And in giving, we remind ourselves how much we have to offer to one another and in our community. Today, our special plate offering supports the Refugee Development Center's Globe Camp, a 10-week camp experience for newcomer youth from around the globe where they make friends, learn English, and experience safety and acceptance. If you place cash or an undesignated check in the basket, your gift will go directly to Globe. To give to UU Lansing or make a pledge payment, please use the envelopes in the back of the seats in front of you and note the purpose of your gift. You can, of course, also give online, scan the QR code on the screen, visit our website, or mail in a donation. I invite you to give generously so that those who cannot contribute financially are able to participate just as fully in this beloved community. We give with the faith that together we have enough. We will now gratefully receive the morning offering.
Good morning. It is good to be back here with you. This congregation has been for me a place of safety for over 10 years. Sometimes it's been a port in a storm, and sometimes one of the many blessings that I counted before sleep. Now, as some of you know, I am called by the rhythms of life and the siren song of my family to move back to New York. And I asked for the opportunity to speak to you from the chancel once more before I move in September. The original plan was to reprise the earliest sermon that I ever gave this congregation. That sermon had been on the topic of change, and I thought it would be nice as a bookend to start and end with themes of change. But that sermon, I opened it up on my computer, and I prepared to spend an hour making small edits so that the sermon on change from April of 2017 would work in July of 2026. That's what we are, yes. But you can probably guess how that went. Ironically, the only part of the sermon that I didn't change was this line. Now this congregation is preparing for interim ministry and all the changes that will bring. It's the only thing that's the same. But of all of the things that have changed, what stuck out to me the most is what a cheerleader I was for the idea of change. My whole sermon was a celebration of it and various techniques for bringing it about. It was a sermon written by a person who had almost never heard the phrase, the new normal. It was written by a person living solidly in precedented times. In that 10 years, on top of all of the global changes, here at UU Lansing, we've been through multiple leadership changes on the board and in our ministry. We went online and back a couple of times. We saw some of our beloved congregants grow old and die. And we've watched the children and young people in our midst grow at truly unhinged rates of speed. For me, my father had died in that time. I got married, twice actually, but to the same person. I found a career that I love and friends who start my engines and finish my sentences. I became a cat person. I was diagnosed with a chronic condition, and recently I found to my great shock that I am one of those only human people who crave the comfort and the solid ground of the place that raised me. I'm sure everyone in this room has a list of things you could have predicted, and like me, and like this church, you could not have predicted. And like me, and like this church, you've seen changes that you longed for, and changes that you prayed fervently to avoid. The good news is that it's not just you or me, for that matter. There is no way that anyone could have prepared for this. There is a well-documented illusion in psychology that was named by, forgive my pronunciation, Jordi Koidbach, Daniel Gilbert, and Timothy Wilson in 2013. It's called the end of history illusion. It describes the phenomenon where we can all describe the ways in which we've changed, but on the whole, most people feel like they're done changing now, like they're fully cooked. People of all ages underestimate how much they will mature, how much their interests will change, and even how their core values will adjust over time. So not only is the world different, it will continue to change, and so will we. Buckle up. Indeed, in this same period of time, as Sonya mentioned, the tenets of the UU religion have changed. We've moved from guiding principles to values, and this change came after much discussion and disagreement and outright protest, as is right and proper and in keeping with UU traditions. But now, transformation is one of the UU values that guides our work. And although we are not a creedal religion, I would still like to quote from the pamphlet. The value of transformation is described as a living tradition, adapts to a changing world, supports individuals in their growth, and the deepening of their understanding. And this framing really connected with the new me, with the shell-shocked me that cannot believe that I am intentionally adding more change and upheaval into a life where my doctor actually prescribed that I turn off the New York Times headline notifications. But what these values ask of us is a transformation that is not a necessary evil or even a personal effort. It is a values-driven response to change for one another, for the world that needs us at our most responsive, at our most flexible, at our most perfectly honed to meet the moment. This is not the transformation of the butterfly that becomes a formless goo and then wakes up beautiful. It is not the transformation of suffering that can make us brittle and steal our defenses. It is the everyday, underappreciated magic of growing and changing with purpose. And as I have learned since 2017, sometimes change is something that we do, and sometimes it is something that we survive. For myself, I am facing changes that scare me, that make me question my choices and take stock of my foundations. It's a position I've found myself in and I've watched other people go through many times over the past 10 years. So if we can't accurately predict the world we're going to live in, and we can't accurately predict the people that we will be to meet it, how can we prepare? How can we feel steady and safe enough to adapt to a changing world and support individuals in their growth and the deepening of their understanding? I have a few thoughts foraged from various disciplines that have helped me so far. I hope that they are helpful to you. I hope also that you will keep in mind that I have literally no qualifications or expertise in this or any related field. But I will say that in her Earthseed series, Octavia Butler says we cannot prevent change, but we are called to shape consciously the change in which we are implicated. This feels like the transformation that the UU literature asks of us, and for my part, I will recommend 3 things. 1, strengthen our core. 2, write our own story. And 3, sometimes do nothing. And when I say I think we can prepare for change by strengthening our core, I do mean it in the philosophical way. I do mean identify and connect with our most deeply held values, but for me, it has also shown up in my body. To just kick things off by oversharing a little, I will tell you that I was recently told by a Pilates instructor that I have a wandering pelvis. I know. I almost challenged her to a duel for insulting my honor, but apparently this is not a Victorian insult. What it means is that I have developed the ability to cheat, to move my body into the Pilates positions without actually doing the stabilizing core work that they're intended to trigger. My body figured out how to look like it is stable without actually connecting to the thing that will stabilize me. How's that for a metaphor? But it did get me wondering where else in my life my wandering pelvis was showing up. Are there other places that I am prioritizing my own comfort and harmony over doing the hard work of building the world that I want? I mean, of course there are, and for good reason. I have felt tremendously under siege. I feel like the structures and the norms that are my foundation are under attack, and that they have been, unrelentingly, for years. I have taken the well-meaning advice to be gentle with myself, to tend to my own garden, to gather up energy for the fights ahead. But honestly, the protective crouch that I held during the pandemic became a habit, one that is rewarded and reinforced by consumer culture. I would wake up, listen to just enough national news to make me crawl back under my blanket and not face the day. Or I would spend the day complaining to people who already agreed with me. But that habit weakened the core skills that I need to sustain the world that I want through the changes that may come. Because I've always known what the real work is. The work that strengthens my core rather than just flattening my abs. There are issues that are closest to my heart, and they're not the ones that are all at the top of the headlines. There are needs in my local community and opportunities to build human connection, and doing that work is what will strengthen and stabilize me through all the changes to come. And our work as a church that does courageous work for peace and justice is no different. The communities and efforts that will weather the changes are the ones where we have done the hard work of inviting minority voices to make our consensus stronger, where we have built strong, flexible braids of solidarity and been the clear-eyed focus through the stormy present. I learned that from this community, and I will take it with me to every place that I touch. When I am frightened of change, I like to remind myself that I am the author of the story that I'm telling. That doesn't mean that I get to choose the things that happen to me, but I do get to decide what these things mean. Whether I'm in the midst of a redemptive storyline on my way to a happy ending, or a demoralizing cautionary tale on my way to a difficult lesson. In the field of narrative psychology, researchers like Jonathan Adler study how our minds are shaped by the stories that we tell ourselves. And we are always telling stories. Some of them we tell to other people, right? Like if somebody asks you how you met your partner or why you started coming to the UU church. Others are stories that we tell ourselves. I tell myself that there was a version of me that lived in a certain place and had certain priorities, and her story ended. And then there was a different person with different goals and different struggles. Adler's research says that most of the time we process change in our world by assimilation. In other words, when things change, we understand them according to the story that we are already telling ourselves. And if they don't fit in that story, we often discard them. But transformation, as the UU value is defined, calls on us to use what Adler calls accommodative processing. We have to ask ourselves, can we allow the changes that we see to change the story that we tell? For instance, if we grew up, as most of us did, learning an aspirational, redemptive story about the history of the United States, and we notice the injustices and the cruelties that have been present since our nation's founding, an assimilative process requires us to minimize those injustices, to think of them as past, as a detour on the clear and righteous path of our nation's story. But accommodative processing allows us to fold in harder truths, to tell a richer story about the ongoing battles between our demons and our better angels. It allows us on an individual level to see ourselves as part of a heritage of those who at every stage in our history held up a mirror to hypocrisy. This is the same skill that allows people who experience a great loss or a difficult diagnosis to adapt rather than to be sidelined by the change. Adler's research shows that those who can write a difficult change into their internal narrative express more satisfaction and stability in the long term. They have written themselves as a protagonist, making choices, rather than as someone beaten up by fates. And what if we met each challenge, each change, with the understanding that this is our hero's journey, and we are just now getting to the good part? And then if we can do all that, my last and most difficult suggestion is that sometimes we do nothing at all. I'm not saying that I recommend facing changes and uncertainty by sinking into despair and sloth and doom scrolling. But for me, the most difficult thing has always been to wait and see what the moment requires of me. I have difficulty believing that I will stay afloat if I stop paddling. I don't always trust my own capacity for adaptation or the structures that I've created to comprise my safety. I always want to keep preparing for every eventuality. The last time I talked about change from this chancel, I shared that when I started exercising, I did a lot more reading about it than I did actually doing it. And because of that, I learned that the reasons that athletes stagger their exercises, focusing on different body parts or different techniques on different days, is because it's not actually the exercise that strengthens the muscle. It is the healing that happens in between. Without the time to knit itself back together, even a well-exercised muscle will not grow. The exercise tells our body, this is what I will ask of you. And then during our rest, the body builds what it needs. How cool is that? Our minds and our hearts are the same. We need to encounter change, to encounter challenges in order to build the tools that we need to handle them. Much as I can't build muscle by telling my arms, next week you're doing a pull-up, I can't prepare for the next phase of my life by imagining what it's going to ask of me. And interim ministry asks this of our congregation. It asks us to practice change, to see what it asks of us, and then build what we need to get through it together. Let us transform to meet the moment. I don't know what the next year or 5 will ask of me or of you or of this faith community. Here it is. Now this congregation is preparing for an interim minister and all the changes that will bring. But I am so grateful that I found here a community that explored with me as I learned and relearned what is most important, a place that has welcomed my story even as it has changed, and people who have held me up as I surfed the changes life brings. If the world is going to continue to turn, and the changes are going to continue to come, which frankly it looks like they are, my vote is for the Unitarian Universalist value of transformation. I say we stay dug in together, building the world that matters, valuing each other as we are, and taking it as it comes. And if anyone wants a pen pal for accountability, I will be waiting with bated breath to hear what comes next. Thank you.
Kat, you're going to be so missed. Our closing hymn today is in the Teal hymnal. It's number 1014. It was originally written with the title Standing on the Side of Love, and it had the corresponding words to that for many, many years. It was written in the early 2000s by UU musician Jason Shelton. And about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a couple more than that, somebody complained to Jason. And they said, you know, it's pretty ableist to keep talking about standing and standing and standing. And his first reaction was, well, I don't care. It is my song. This is how I wrote it. There's no need to change it. But he did what was recommended to us a couple of weeks ago in worship, and he stopped and took a breath and thought about it. And then decided that he needed to take a couple of weeks, months, figuring out what he wanted to do with this piece. So the first thing he did was he did change the words so that it was no longer standing on the side but answering the call. And as he did that, he felt the resonance change in it. It was no longer this passive, okay, I'm going to just stand here and I'll hold the right beliefs, but I'm not really going to do anything about it, to this very active answering the call. I know what's being asked of me, and I'm going to actually take part in that. I'm going to steel myself, and I am going to go and be one of the instruments of change. So I would invite you to consider that as we sing together number 1014, Answering the Call of Love. The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. And so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are answering the call of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are answering the call of love. We are answering the call of love.
Please join with me in our benediction. As a religious community inspired by awe and wonder, we nurture spiritual growth, connect in authentic, loving relationships, and engage in courageous work for peace and justice. Let us meet today with the conviction that we are exactly what the world needs, and together we have all we need to meet the moment. Our worship is over. May our service begin.